salutations, my dearest friends. My name is Samantha, and today I'm going to be giving romance recommendations for books that have boxers in the romance. Sports romance, boxing romance. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to Trope Week. If you guys didn't know, I am doing a series on my channel where every day for a week I pick one specific romance book trope and I give you a bunch of recommendations. And today we're going to be talking about boxing romances, which I know is kind of specific, but it's something that I love. I have a soft spot for two sports romances, just two. Boxing, which we're going to be talking about today, and hockey. I don't know why I love hockey romances so freaking much, but they're some of my favorite. And ironically enough, those are the two sports that I have never watched a single game on. Never watched a boxing match, never watched a hockey game, but I read about them all the time. I have 5 books to talk about today, so hopefully this is going to be a shorter video. And then at the end, I will talk about some books that I haven't read, but they have the boxing theme, and I just have them on my TBR. So let's get started. Let's just jump right into the video, okay? Because my intros are always very long. Okay, so the first boxing romance that I want to talk about is actually a novella, and it is Neighborly by Katrina Jackson. I've talked about this novella on my channel before, and it is truly one of my favorites. This follows our characters, Heaven and Calvin. They are a young couple that are just starting to move in with one another. They're really wanting to create a life and get married and move in together and really take their relationship to the next step. Calvin is an aspiring boxer in this book, and Heaven is kind of like his good luck charm. She goes to all his games. They have a little bit of a tradition. This book is very steamy. I love the romance between the two of them. So that's kind of how the boxing element comes into play. But this book is a polyamorous or open relationship type of book. Our characters, like I said, they're just starting to move in together, and they end up finding an apartment next to another couple. The married couple does have an open relationship, and when the two women meet, they have an instant attraction to one another, and they have really supportive partners who kind of let them explore that attraction. They do end up having a polyamorous / open relationship where the two couples hook up and spend some time together, and a lot of the book does take place around Calvin's career and in the boxing ring, so you get to see little slices of that. I just think this book was so steamy, so well written. I loved how supportive like the partners were and how they were willing to like explore that attraction with each other, and it was just so beautifully written if you like that type of dynamic. So this one is a good one. The next one that I adore and I highly recommend is Making Their Vows by Jessica Cain. This is another steamy novella. I read a lot of Jessica Cain novellas. She writes a ton of them on Kindle Unlimited, but this one is probably one of my favorites, like definitely in my top 3. If you've never read a Jessica Cain novella, you are in for a treat. It usually has a zaddy kink in it. It usually has a very alpha possessive hero, and this one is no different. Follows our characters, Grace and North, is out with her friends, and they end up going to this underground fighting rink in a rougher part of town, and that is actually how she meets our hero. Our hero, his name is North. He fights in this underground fighting rink to make money to provide for himself and his sister. Our characters are so different. This is the type of goody two-shoes that always listen to her parents. She's very prim and proper. She comes from a richer side of Boston. And then our hero, North, he's fighting in like this illegal fighting rink to take care of himself and his sister. He comes from a tougher part of town, but they end up meeting and having a very intense connection. They do end up developing a little bit of a BDSM relationship in this one. Like I said, most Jessica Cain books have the zaddy kink if you're into that. And this one, I don't know, like I can't explain it. It is so, something about Jessica Cain novellas just get me, okay? North is like that perfect blend of a possessive alpha hero, but he also like completely worships our heroine, and it just does something for me. I adore this book. Our hero is a boxer in this book. This one also has like a connecting novella that basically follows their life after they're married and when they're trying to have kids. So if you like this one, you do have like a follow-up novella to read as well. Okay, so next one I want to recommend is a more recent read, and this one is one I read when I really started to get into Omegaverse, and that is Fistfangs and Rival Omega by Ash Moon. Sorry that I'm looking down at my notes so I don't forget anything. You guys know the deal. I always get asked for sweet Omegaverse recommendations, and this series right here is it. So if you don't know what an Omegaverse is, I will put a video down below where I kind of explain it, but the best way I can describe it is kind of like werewolf shifters, but a little bit more intense with alphas and omegas and fated mates. Like, jumble all that together, but make it a little bit more intense. This is the first book in the Moonstar Dating Agency series. In this book, both of our heroes are MMA fighters. It is a male-male romance, and it does have MPreg in it, which basically means in this universe, alpha males can get omega males pregnant. It starts off kind of like an enemies to lovers situation because they are both fighting and competing for that championship title. Those Desmond and Chasen, and Desmond is an omega, and he is one of the only omegas in this fighting rink. Most of the people that are fighting in here are alphas, so he's definitely the underdog. And is kind of a little bit of a playboy, kind of arrogant, and they just butt heads. Midst of all of that, kind of like a part of this series, a really big part of this series, is the fated mates trope. There is like this dating agency that can help you find like your true fated mate. So Desmond goes to that agency while he is fighting, and that is kind of how Chasen comes into his life. They end up training together, and they just honestly keep bumping into each other, and it is obvious that they are meant to be together, but like I said, they always like butt heads. And I really loved this one. It was one of my favorite enemies to lovers romance, is because it was just so perfectly balanced, and I loved our characters so much. I didn't realize how many novellas I have to recommend in this video, but the next one I want to talk about is another novella on Kindle Unlimited, and this is Knockout by Sophie Austen. This is the first book in the Doyle series. This entire series kind of follows a bunch of brothers. This is also an Irish mafia series. Our hero's family is kind of a part of the Irish mafia. This book, our hero Owen, he grew up in Boston and was surrounded kind of by his family being in the Irish mafia. He becomes an MMA fighter to win this really big fight that has a lot of prize money, so he can get money to get out of that lifestyle and also care for his father who is sick. It is kind of like a brother's best friend trope, because the way he knows our heroine is that she is his best friend's little sister. She is a nurse, and they kind of have this routine where she patches him up after all of his fights. She doesn't necessarily agree with him being a boxer because one of her brothers used to be a boxer and ended up getting really hurt. So drawn to each other, but they also don't want to ruin their friendship, and there's so many things keeping them apart, but it follows their romance. The boxing portion in this book is pretty large because, like I said, he's trying to get that prize money so that he doesn't have to be involved with like the mafia lifestyle. And then the last recommendation that I'm going to talk about today is Fit by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is the first book in the Fit trilogy, and you don't really have to read these in order, but this is the first one. This book follows Violet and Grant. Violet is a producer for a Food Network show, and she's feeling a little self-conscious. She's not entirely comfortable in her body. She really wants to be more in shape, so she ends up going to this gym. I think the gym is called Fit, which is why it's called the Fit trilogy, and she ends up meeting our hero Grant. He becomes her personal trainer, but kind of while they're training together, she discovers that he is in the BDSM lifestyle and he is a dom, and she realizes that she's much more submissive and kind of wants that in a relationship. So during the day they train together, and during the nights they play together, and it's really spicy and steamy and fun. This one has very subtle boxing in it. She really only boxes to get in shape. Like, it's very subtle, but I'm gonna throw it in here anyways. Those are the 5 books that I would recommend that have a boxing aspect to them, some more than others, but I still loved every single one of them. With these videos, I also like to talk about some books that I have on my TBR. So the next 2 books I'm gonna mention are books that have boxing in them, but I haven't read them yet. The first one is a series by Gina L. Maxwell. The first book is called Seducing Cinderella, and from what I can tell, this entire series is centered around boxing, which is really interesting. I've heard a lot of good things about this author, so I want to start it. Like in the most recent months, I haven't really been picking up contemporary books, but this one has caught my eye, so I want to read it. And then the second one I've talked about in some TBR video on my channel, and that is Fighting for Three by Nicole Stewart. This one has been on my Kindle Unlimited TBR forever, and this is a polyamorous relationship, which you guys know is my favorite. So to my understanding, our heroine in this book, it's a female and 2 men. The heroine in this book is like an actress of some sort, and maybe she received like a death threat, or she's in some type of danger where she needs a bodyguard. So her and her husband hire a professional boxer to be their bodyguard, and a romance forms between the 3 of them. the synopsis makes it seem like, and that sounds wonderful, so I'm really interested in reading this one. It has a boxing element, plus it's polyamorous, and it's steamy. Ooh, this one, oh yeah, I need to read this one. So those are all the books that I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for more boxing romances, leave them down below. As always, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with me. It means the world to me. I hope you guys are all staying happy and healthy, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.